Hey guys, how's it going? It's Miss G here, and this video is a reminder about the distributive property. So we're going to review how we can undo parentheses with multiplication, okay? So this video, we are actually going to use the take-home problems set number 1 that were assigned as our example, because almost all of the problems, the first 6 out of the 9, are actually distributive property problems, okay? So we're just going to take each of these problems, put them back on my whiteboard. I'm going to talk you through it, and hopefully it makes sense. Okay, so we're going to start here with number 1, -2 times b plus 5 in parentheses. So number 1 is -2, and then it had b plus 5 in parentheses. Okay, so anytime that we're working with a problem that has these parentheses, they've locked in these terms, and we need to simplify, because simplified means there are no parentheses and there are no like terms. All right. So when we see a number next to the parentheses, there's always the invisible multiply telling us what to do, okay? So this -2 is going to get multiplied by both terms inside the parentheses. So remember, terms are separated by the plus or minus sign. So that plus means that this plus 5 is separate from the b, okay? And this is a -2 because, again, the sign always goes with the term or number that comes after, okay? So -2 times b is written as -2b. Remember, there's that invisible multiply in between them, right? We just tend not to write it, okay? Then we have to do -2 times the second term, which is a positive 5. So a negative times a positive gives me a -10. All right? And this is completely simplified because this term has a variable in it. This term does not have a b, so we cannot combine apples and oranges, and we are done. All right? So let's work number 2. All right? And if you would like, on this video, you could always pause it, and then you could work it yourself to see if you got it right, and then check your answer and watch the video. That would be a great way to use this as a learning tool. So number 2, we've got 7 times the quantity -t minus 3. So we've got 7 times the quantity -t minus 3. Okay, so when we work this, again, we see 7 next to a parenthesis, so we remind ourselves that means we multiply. The terms we have inside the parentheses are a -t and a -3, okay? And this is a positive 7, even though they tend to not write the, it's like an invisible addition sign, kind of like invisible ones in front of variables, because this is an invisible -1, okay? So before you even start the problem, if you have a hard time knowing what to multiply or what to do, how about you put in all the kind of invisible pieces and break it out so you know what you're working with, okay? So we're going to distribute this positive 7 to both of the terms. Positive 7 times a -1 would give us a -7. And then we keep the t with it, because remember, it's being multiplied by t, okay? Then we have this positive 7 multiplied by a -3, which means that is going to be a -21. So we always have to have an operator in between, which is why keeping track of the symbol, or I'm sorry, the operator in front of the number is really, really helpful, okay? So let's see, let's move on to number 3, okay? So we're going to have -8 times the quantity 2c minus 9, all right? So we're on to number 3. Gosh, I already forgot what it was. -8 times the quantity 2c minus 9. Again, if you're watching the video to really get your take-home problems done, how about you pause the video, give it a try, and then push play again to check your answer, okay? So to work this problem, I'm going to put in all the invisible pieces. I'm going to put in the invisible multiply. I'm going to go ahead and identify the different pieces inside the parentheses and make sure I have the correct number with its sign of what needs to get multiplied by everybody. So I'm going to use this -8 and multiply it by this coefficient, which is the number in front of the variable. -8 times 2 gives me a -16 times c. Because remember, we can't drop the c. We use the coefficient to do the math, and then we keep the variable. Then we say -8 times -9. Well, I already know a negative times a negative is a positive, and that would be 72. Now, some people do this. They write this, and then they don't think to put anything in between. The reason that we always talk about signs on a number are important is that if this is a positive 72, we say positive 72, which tells us to put the plus sign between these two terms to write a complete expression. If you didn't have that plus sign, it would be wrong because those were two individual terms not connected together into an expression. So we always have to make sure our terms have an operator, whether it's a plus or a minus in between them, okay? All right, let's try number 4. All right, it says 3/4 times 12s plus 16. So I'm actually gonna give myself a new paper if I can get to it. We're gonna add a slide just so I have more room. So 4, that doesn't look like a good 4. 4, we had 3/4 times 12s, and let me make sure I copy it down right, plus 16, okay? So I'm gonna start by putting in all the invisible pieces. I'm gonna put in the multiply. I'm gonna identify what I've got inside the parentheses so I know what I'm multiplying by. And what I'm multiplying by is actually a fraction, 3/4, okay? So when we multiply by a fraction, this 3/4 times 12, I'm just gonna write it out right here. 3/4 times a whole number 12. It's very easy to do fraction math if you put whole numbers over 1. So anytime that you end up with a whole number multiplied by a fraction, simply put it over 1 so that you can simply multiply straight across, okay? So this would be 3/4 times 12s, because we don't want to forget the s, plus 3/4, we'll simplify it in a second, times 16 over 1, because we did times the 12s times the 16. So let's simplify. If we go straight across when we multiply fractions, 3 times 12 is 36. 4 times 1 is 4. I'm just going to keep the s. Plus 3 times 16 is 48. 4 times 1 is 4. And now I have to simplify because I look at it and I've got a fraction, and so I got to ask myself, have I simplified it? These are both even, so I know they're divisible by 2, but I also know my math facts that 36 is divisible by 4, and that is 9s plus 48 divided by 4 is 12. Okay, so the biggest piece here I think for people is that when you have a fraction multiplied by a whole number, we put it over 1 and then we multiply straight across and then we simplify from there. Okay, all right, let's try number 5. I think number 5 we've got another fraction, so let's give ourselves a little bit more space. Again, please be pausing the video to be able to try it on your own and then watch the video to correct or check your answer. So I have 3/2 times 6g plus 14. So 3/2 times 6g plus 14. So I'm going to put in my invisible operators there. I'm going to identify the terms that I'm going to be multiplying by. I know this will be multiplied by that and this. And so I'll write 3/2 times 6, because I'm using the coefficient, right, to do the math. I'm going to put that over 1, and then I'm going to keep my g. Then I'm going to say plus 3/2 times 14. That's a whole number, so I'm going to put it over 1 so that I can do my fraction math. So remember, we multiply straight across when we do our fractions, right? So 3 times 6 is 18. 2 times 1 is 2. And then I'd say 3 times 14. Let's see, I think that's 42. And then 2 times 1 is 2. And now I can simplify this to say it is 9g plus 21. All right? All right. So I think we've got, what, 6, 7, 8, 9. We are almost there, guys, okay? Hopefully this is making sense. So let's move on to number 6, all right? So number 6 is negative 1/3 times the quantity negative 15d plus 24. So let's see if I can remember that. Negative 1/3 times negative 15d plus 24. All right? So let's get started. We know that we're going to multiply because we have a number right next to a parenthesis. So the invisible operation is multiply. This is negative 15d, and this is a positive 24. So those are the pieces inside the parentheses. I'm going to be multiplying it by negative 1/3, and I'm going to multiply that by both of the terms. Okay? So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to say negative 1/3 times, I'm going to use the coefficient of this term, the number piece, negative 15, and I'm going to put it over 1 so I can do easy fraction math. I'm going to keep my variable, and then I'm going to say plus negative 1/3 times 24, and I'm going to put that over 1, again, so I can do easy fraction math, okay? So negative times a negative is a positive, so that would be 15 over 3 times 1 is 3. I'm going to keep my variable, and I'm going to say plus negative 1 times 24 is negative 24 over 3 times 1 is 3. Okay, so now I'm going to simplify. 15 divided by 3 is 5, and negative 24 divided by 3 is negative 8. So instead of writing plus negative 8, I'm just going to write minus 8. Okay, if you were to write it as 5d plus negative 8, I wouldn't count it wrong. But when you're looking at tests where they give you multiple choice answers, this is the answer that you're going to see. So we need to know that this right here is the exact same as writing minus 8. Okay? All right, let's finish up. The last 3 questions are not the distributive property, but since we're using this video to review kind of some of our basic skills, let's go ahead and finish out these take-home problems, okay? So we're now using the commutative and the associative properties, which is basically being able to reorder our terms, okay, whenever we don't have to distribute something through them, all right? So this says 3 plus b plus 8, okay? So 3 plus, in parentheses, b plus 8, all right? So I am going to be able to look at this and say there's an invisible 1 in front of this parentheses, right? Well, we already know there's an invisible multiply. So if I multiply and I distribute this 1 to everybody, they basically are just the same thing because anything times 1 is itself. So by distributing the 1, I've essentially unlocked the parentheses to where I can take them away, right? And at this point, I can reorder this, okay, to be able to say 3 plus 8 plus b, such that I can do this math, all right? The other way we could do that, oh, I forgot to put that back in, into blue. If you are using our bubble and box method, you could box the constant and bubble the variable, and then you would box the number, such that we could put these two together, and we know that would be 11 plus b. And at that point, we are completely done because this is a constant. It does not have a variable. This is a variable, and we cannot put a constant with a variable term. So you're done. You could also have written this as b plus 11. This is also correct because it doesn't matter which term comes first. Do you notice how this was a positive b? Well, that's a positive b, and this is a positive 11. It's the invisible positive in front, plus 11. So as long as the sign is correct with the term, you can reorder them. All right, let's do number 8. Okay, so number 8 is D plus 4 in parentheses plus 6. So we have D plus 4 in parentheses plus 6. So just like last time, the distributive property allowed us to be able to say that we could unlock the parentheses, or if we're talking about our different properties here, okay, if we talk about being able to, here the associative property, we're able to associate 6 and 14 together because these parentheses, we can put the like terms together. They're doing exactly what we've been doing in class, okay? So we could go ahead and say D plus 4 plus 6 because those are both constants and we know those can both go together. So that would be D plus 10, okay? Or you could say 10 plus D. Either way would work, okay? If you were to follow our bubble and box method, okay, you would say D plus 4 plus 6. You'd see the parentheses and you'd say we can't bubble and box before we get rid of parentheses. So we'd put the invisible 1 out front. And if you distribute the 1, it unlocks the parentheses so that we can actually identify the variable terms and the constant terms. And then we would end up in the exact same spot with D plus 10, okay? So again, guys, as long as you're following the math rules, there's lots of different ways to think about things, and you will end up in the right spot. All right, guys, last question on this take-home problem. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to come here. Okay, 6 times 5p. We'll just rewrite it. 6 times the quantity 5p. All right? So there is the invisible multiply here. So there's 2 ways we could do this. We could distribute the 6 to the 5, which gives us 30p, right? Or if you wanted to be using the properties of review, okay, the commutative property, got the commutative and the associative. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. You could group these together since they're all being multiplied together. There's the invisible multiply there. When everything is being multiplied together, you can reorder which pieces you multiply first, which allows you to put the numbers together, which then gets you to 30p. Okay? All right, guys, so I hope that helped in terms of looking at things. If we kind of go back through our slides here, see if I can get all the way over to the first one. Remember, this video, the focus was that we were going to be able, to review the distributive property, which is undoing parentheses with multiplication, okay? We multiply the number out front by all the terms inside, and we have to pay careful attention to the signs and make sure that when we write expressions, we always have a plus or a minus in between every single term that we've got. All right? If you've still got questions, please let me know in class or send me an email, and we'll see if we can get you all figured out so that you can use the distributive property correctly. All right, guys, see you in class. Bye-bye.